Hello, beautiful people. I am just getting started, so bear with me and peek in later. I know it's not exciting right now.
Meet you in peace and love. I am grateful that I can continue to share my thoughts with all of you. There has been some excellent discussion lately about the concept of serving souls. I am happy this is being talked about, and I would like to share my thoughts about this as well. As always, I am sharing my perspective, not the sole and only valid perspective. Source is simply the consciousness of everything. Serving Source involves saying out loud, Source, I am in service to you once, and then continuing on that path as it unfolds before you. This will likely involve a period where you are coached and guided by ascended masters or angels to work on yourself. And then perhaps after a few months or years, you will be asked to start doing things that help humanity. Of course, you can refuse at any time. No one is going to force you to do anything. I recommend saying that you serve Source instead of saying that you serve, for example, God. When I talk about serving Source, I absolutely do not suggest that you do this from a perspective of I am bad. Everything is flawed. The only good being is Source, hence I serve Source. I suggest serving Source from a perspective of while there may be some personal things that I still choose to work on, I ultimately come from Source, and therefore I am already inherently valuable and loved beyond measure. Still, the consciousness of everything, I, Source, has a higher perspective or vantage point than I do, and I do wish to help the whole because all is one. And hence I am available to this consciousness of everything to do tasks that serve the whole. I am in favor of serving souls. On top of that, for more day to day considerations, such as should I go to this workshop or not, it is a very good idea to ask your own soul. You can ask your own soul by saying or thinking, my soul, should I go to this workshop? And then listening to the very first thought that comes up. This thought will use your regular inner voice, but it will come from your soul. As always, I care very much about empowering you. If your own soul tells you something different than what I will be sharing, please listen to your own soul and not to me on this matter. That said, not every thought and feeling that arises in you is either a message from your soul or some other kind of higher guidance or inner knowing. I have discussed that in my previous message, Hacken. How do I know what is true? Let's talk about serving souls. First of all, Source does not demand or actively ask for worship or service. Any being who does demand or actively ask for these things is not Source slash the Prime Creator. By the way, skilled channelers can just literally talk to Source. So if I make a claim about Source wanting or not wanting certain things, then those claims can be verified by skilled Earth channelers. While Source very much respects free will, Source also does want certain things. For example, a large part of why we Pleiadians are here is because Source doesn't want turf humans to keep suffering like this. How can Source work to lessen the suffering of humanity on one hand, while not violating free will on the other hand? Well, one part of the answer is that if beings freely choose to serve Source, then Source, or usually in practice, angels and ascended masters working on behalf of Source, feel free to make requests of those beings. That is how Source's will is often brought about in practice through people and beings who freely choose to serve Source. Now, some people have said that serving Source is a bit silly because, from a certain perspective, all beings automatically and inherently serve Source. After all beings provide Source with expansion and experiences and allow Source to experience itself. This is a completely valid perspective. However, just because this is one valid perspective doesn't mean that there aren't other valid perspectives too. Some people have also pointed out that the concept of serving Source actually can become destructive if Source is perceived as some external being, separate from the one who would serve it. The concept of serving source can also become destructive if people fail to realize that as they are part of source. Hence, taking good care of themselves and even finding their own happiness is one part of serving source. Third, serving source can become destructive if people start falsely perceiving humans as inherently flawed or worthless, and only source as being pure or good. However, despite all this, in the past we have suggested that deciding to serve source can be a great thing if you want to grow spiritually and help humanity. And I still maintain that position. In fact, I myself am in service to source right now and have been for quite a long time. Of course, serving source is a choice. People do not have to do this. In fact, the tasks that may be asked of you when you commit to serving source can be challenging, although you won't be asked to do things that you won't be able to. It's entirely possible that it's simply not in alignment for a certain person to serve source at this current moment in time. I recognize that many of you already have a whole lot on your plate, emotionally and spiritually and practically speaking, and I respect that. Still, serving source is an amazing path to walk and a very great act of service to humanity as well. Why do I speak in favor of committing to serve source? One reason is that there are certain major and very important tasks that can only be realistically accomplished by angel earth human cooperation. And practically speaking, angels are only going to actively and directly approach those humans who have committed themselves to serving source or something similar to that, with the request to do these major acts of light work together. In the eyes of angels, it would be a violation of free will to approach someone who has not made some kind of commitment like that. For example, the being you know as Jesus pointed an earthlight worker who had committed to serving source to a way of dealing with demons. Sometime later, Archangel Michael has actively and directly approached this light worker with the request that they banish a certain important demon together that was negatively affecting Earth in a significant way. Archangel Michael would not have approached this light worker if he or she had not committed to serving souls. By now, several major demons have been banished or uncreated in this way. For example, Baal or Baal was uncreated over a year ago. The critical part that this light worker played was facing this demon and then calling on angels, so that this uncreation of Baal came about as a free will decision of an earth human. You can think of this as the earth human as giving the mandate, and the angels fulfilling the request. This way, Source's will can be made manifest through the actions of people freely choosing to serve Source, without Source ever violating someone's free will. Furthermore, this light worker has astral traveled to a cavernous region inside Earth, which includes a lake of fire, and humans were being tortured by physically incarnated demons. This is the region that has created the emotional resonance and fear behind the concept of hell, although Source is not sending anyone to that place. This light worker astrally traveled there and then called on angels and other benevolent beings. Indeed, this region has now been cleared. There are no more demons there, and the humans who were there have been rescued. There is another negative and dark realm that could be considered hell, which is the place you go to if you sell your soul to a demon and then transition or die. That realm is still intact. So as you can see, if people commit to serving Source, or make some kind of similar commitment, then after some period of personal work and cleansing, they may very well be actively approached by ascended masters and angels to do very significant light work together. And all of humanity is greatly benefiting from these brave individuals who are doing so. Of course, angels and ascended masters won't ask anything that the man or woman will not be able to accomplish. Not everyone who has committed to serving Source will be asked to do something like this. Another person might be asked to, for example, open a soup kitchen. So that is one reason for serving Source. A second reason is that it will help you identify as the entire body and not just as one finger. What I mean by that is that ultimately all is one. Yet the moment to moment experience of the average light worker is that they are being who is separate from everyone and everything else. Committing to serving Source will put you on the path to identifying yourself as being one with everything and not as you being one more separate being. It will help you identify as the whole body and not just as one finger. It will help you identify as your greater self. It's beneficial to humanity if people start identifying as the whole. It's beneficial for the body if the finger realizes it's one inextricable part of it. Imagine a body where every single body part or organ thought they were separate from the whole. It would be an unhealthy and dangerous and stressful situation. Moreover, it's also psychologically healthy for the individual to start realizing that they are the body and not just the finger, not as a rational thought, not once as a peak experience during meditation, but more and more as an everyday reality. Committing to serving Source won't get you there immediately, but it will put you on that path. While light workers usually aren't actively destructive, some of them have limited their awareness to only a small happy bubble around them. Now, that can be a necessary survival mechanism, and certainly that's better than just being depressed. However, shutting out the world and limiting your awareness to happy things only is not really a state of ultimate spiritual attainment, no matter how blissful or content one might feel inside their happy bubble. If we Pleiadians would limit our awareness to only a small happy bubble, we would not be out here helping you today. If you commit to serving Source, you can be reasonably sure that after a period of being invited to work on yourself, you will be asked to step up to help others. If you were previously inside a self-imposed happy bubble, you will be let out of that at a gradual, workable, healthy pace. You will also be invited to start a process of self-healing, self-love, and integration. And you will also receive lots of help with those processes along the way. A third reason for serving Source is that committing to this path will eventually integrate your ego in a healthy and proper way. So long as you commit to serving Source from the perspective that you are already valuable and loved beyond measure, it's just that the consciousness of everything has a very high vantage point. And because all is one, it makes sense to make yourself available to this consciousness of everything for tasks that can benefit the whole. While your own soul may have a much higher vantage point than most Earth humans, even your own soul doesn't have a vantage point as high as Source does. This healthy and proper integration of the ego is a massively important thing. The vast majority of people, including light workers, haven't fully and properly integrated their ego yet. There are many people out there, including some people receiving this message, who think they have integrated their ego, but in fact they have not yet fully done so. Committing to serving Source is one great way to step on the path to fully integrate your ego in a healthy way. It is not very easy or straightforward to do that in any other way. Having certain rational thoughts or insights or peak experiences can help, but that by itself this will not fully integrate your ego. Rationally knowing that all is one is an important step, but that by itself will not integrate your ego fully. To us, freely choosing to be in service does not mean that you are flawed or bad or lesser than. Freely choosing to be in service, to us, indicates a level of mastery and altruism and an integrated and practical understanding that all is one. Great masters, such as Archangel Michael and certain Earth human masters, are in service to Source and have said so in various messages and channelings. It is impossible to freely choose to be in service and still subconsciously hold on to certain egoic ideas, and hence the ego really doesn't like being in service. In fact, the ego will come up with all sorts of reasons and arguments against being in service to Source. An unintegrated ego is not just someone being a destructive bully to the people around them. It can also be someone staying a bit too long in their happy bubble. Or it can be someone avoiding tough choices or avoiding painful healing and integration processes. It can be your minute to minute experience being one of separation instead of your minute to minute experience being one of connection with everything around you. Of course, these things will not all click into place immediately if you commit to serving Source, but you will immediately start on a path that leads to a proper integration of your ego. Hence, it also benefits you personally to serve Source. A fourth reason to serve Source is that this really does very much help the liberation of Earth. You could think of Earth as a war zone because there literally are powerful people out there who are trying to kill and control a whole lot of people. And you could think of most light workers as spec ops agents who committed to serving Source before their current life. During wartime, it's best if spec ops agents report to mission control, Source, rather than if they just act based on their own judgment. The more that spec ops agents report to mission control, the sooner Earth will be free. I do think there is a lot of value in the idea that everyone can create whatever they feel guided to do, and so a heart-centered society is built. However, I think that's more something for the rebuilding phase. Right now, there is a war to be won, and for that, you need people reporting to mission control, I stating that they are serving Source. If everyone in the Galactic Confederation military decided that they no longer chose to serve, then our military would stop functioning immediately. Within a week, we'd be invaded by reptilians, and within a month, most of us would be dead or enslaved. People in the Galactic Confederation are only free because enough of us freely choose to serve Source. Yes, no one here is forced to serve in the military. However, at the same time, if no one chose to serve as a soldier, even though being a soldier is not always a lot of fun, then we would be conquered very quickly. I would love for things to be so peaceful that everyone can just do what they wish to do, and even then people would remain safe and taken care of. And maybe one day in the future, this will be a reality. Certainly, there are things I could be doing that would be more fun for me than being a military commander. But in the here and now, Earth is a war zone, and to win wars, it would be helpful for spec ops agents to report to mission control. You may not like that you are in a war zone, and I empathize very much with Earth humans. But until certain powerful people stop trying to kill and control on a mass scale, Earth is still a zone. And if you are in a war zone, then it's best to acknowledge reality and act accordingly. Or if you don't like this military talk, suppose there is some kind of disaster and lots of Earth people would be homeless and hungry. Wouldn't it then make sense for people to report to one central coordination point? Then people would be helped more efficiently than if people just helped in an uncoordinated fashion. If you decide Source and your personality and talents are more geared towards helping people or taking care of people, then Source may very well guide you in that direction. Serving Source doesn't necessarily mean conflict or facing literal demons. Of course, I do acknowledge that it's relatively easy for us to talk because we are getting our needs met and you are currently not. I am actually positively surprised by the very impressive capabilities and dedication of those Earth light workers who have already reported to mission control, Source. I am not complaining about or disappointed about light workers deciding to serve Source. That part of the plan is actually proceeding more quickly than we predicted, because certain light workers have stepped up to an almost unbelievable degree. The light worker I spoke about earlier is one such example. Sure, things would move even more quickly if even more light workers started serving Source. But I am grateful to and impressed by how much light workers have already stepped up. Thank you for your work and dedication, Earth light workers. You are an amazing ground crew indeed. Finally, a fifth reason is that once you embark on the path of serving Source, you will grow immensely and you will be helped by angels and ascended masters and possibly galactics. You don't need to be so called whole to start serving Source. This channeler still had to take a lot of psychological issues and emotional turmoil when he made his commitment to serving Source. Because of that commitment, He actually got more help and encouragement, and he healed more quickly. And he was only asked to start serving Source a few years later, once he had done most of his healing and integration work. If you think it is unfair that people who committed themselves to serving Source are getting a bit more help than those who did not, ask yourself. If you are mission control, do you send more support to those Spec Ops agents who are reporting for duty and are available for missions, or to those Spec
Yeah.
Ops agents who are just acting on their own accord? So if you serve Source, you will be coached and helped in the direction of great personal development. After a few years of committing to Source and doing this enhanced healing and integration work, you'll likely feel emotionally safe and pleasant to most other people, although occasionally you may still trigger certain people too. This channeler has committed to serving Source, and one part of the reason why many people resonate with the messages he channels is because his serve to Source has made him quite a pure conduit. Also, both spiritual people and more so-called average Earth humans have recently remarked to the channeler in real life that he feels emotionally safe to be around, and that he has a great energy. For angels and us galactics too, if we see that someone is genuinely in service to Source, we will immediately think, okay, this is a safe, sane, emotionally mature, and spiritually pretty developed person. This is someone we can work with if we want. We don't need to be on our guard or concerned if we're around this person. Of course, there absolutely are Earth humans who are not in service to Source, and for whom all of this is true too. Still, if we see that someone is genuinely in service to Source, we instantly know all these things about this person. And if the person is not in service to Source, then we will have to look more carefully and closely. So these are 5 reasons to serve Source. 1. Certain tasks can only realistically be accomplished by angels and Earth humans working together, and angels will not actively and directly approach people with requests to do light work together unless those people have committed to serving Source, or made a commitment similar to that. 2. Serving Source will help you identify as the entire body and not just as the finger. 3. Serving Source will put you on the path to a healthy integration of your ego. 4. Serving Source will help liberate Earth more quickly. 5. Serving Source will lead to great personal development, and at some point, you will start feeling emotionally safe to other people and beings. That said, as always, this is a choice. No one is forcing you to serve Source. The Galactics and I love you unconditionally and endlessly, no matter what choices you make. We are so looking forward to meeting you.
Nope. This is okay.
Welcome to Awakening You channel. If you appreciate what we do, please support us. Thank you. Hello beloveds, and so, we begin. We begin, and we love that moment when we feel Alia recognizing the flow of energy coming into her experience. We love that moment, and we love when she allows it the translation to begin, the energy to be articulated. That's really like a metaphor for this thing we're talking about you allowing the flow of your inner reality into personal action. So today, we want to speak about your capacity to allow something that is really spectacular, and that is to allow greatness. Your greatness. The greatness that is you. We want to talk about you allowing your greatness. What do you feel like about that? How do you feel when we say that? The deepest intention of your embodiment is you being fully you, and you are inherently great. Do you know this? How do you feel about that? How does that sit with you? What's your response to that? From our view, we see that most people are not all that comfortable with their greatness, and in order for you to allow fully who you are to flow freely, you're going to have to look at your relationship to thinking of yourself as really great. So we're going to start today talk about that. Let's begin by saying you arise from the oneness that is. Out of that limitless, vast, luminous consciousness, energy flows into the specific form and function that is you, that you think of as your soul, your higher self, and the form and function that you are has a particular kind of purpose, and the purpose is the fulfillment of you. You can live your lives in ways that are exceptional and so brilliant, and doing so is just a matter of allowing. You do not need to create your greatness, because it is. Although you will take action to bring about the forms in which your greatness is expressed in this world, that is not the same as creating the value of your being or the greatness itself. It simply is who you already, truly are. For most of you, when you think about the adventures of expressing the greatness that is who you truly are, you think about this kind of thing, and feel like, in order to be great, you first gotta make yourselves better. Most of you don't really think of yourselves as great, already. There's this idea that you might become great, but first you gotta make yourselves better. First, you gotta work on yourself. First, you have to fix yourself or learn more or improve yourself or try harder, all kinds of ideas that, somehow, that who you are right here, right now inherently is lacking, is not enough to be called great, which is not true. So today, we speak to you of your capacity, and we want to point out to you how you can allow your own greatness, the naturalness of your own greatness to flow. All of creation is flowing through you, shaped and informed by the uniqueness of the energy structure that you think of as your soul self. That energy structure that is you, has specific inclinations. What you might think of as functions, and you don't have to figure these out. Many people go through life thinking before they can be all they can be, they must determine, figure out their purpose. Most people want to know their purpose. Many people want someone to tell them who they are. We want to invite you to consider you don't have to spell this out. You don't have to determine it before you express it. It's the only way you do express when you are in accord with the fullness of your being. It just happens. You don't have to have some written down definition of your purpose in order for you to express the greatness that is you. It's very simple to express the greatness that is you, and the fun way to do that is to honor your desire. Desire is creation seeking action through you. When you allow your desires, you allow the specific functions and possibilities of who you truly are to express. Perhaps the way you could think of contributing in your world and fulfilling your purpose, expressing your greatness, is to flow. You allow it to express and flow into this realm, when you honor your desire. When you embrace what you want and go with it, you allow yourself to be fulfilled, and you allow others in life to be blessed by a fuller knowing of all that is, which happens through the specific fulfillment of you. You are inherently great. Great. Not sort of good. Great. You are great, and you are worthy of this greatness, and each and every one of you is really sensational. Exceptional. I can be natural. You can feel easily capable of what you will clearly feel as really great things if you let yourself know yourself this way. In fact, most of you have done many truly great things already, yet most of you spend more time making real the things that diminish you, and looking at what you haven't done rather than focusing on all the generous ways of being you are expressing and sharing. Most humans are focused upon and looking at the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and amplifying all that. Sustaining that. Making those gaps more real than the things that feel good, the things that flow easily and naturally. Today, we're going to invite you to drop that. What if you just stopped doing that? What if you just give up this need to diminish yourself? What if you decide, I'm gonna no longer put myself down? I'm gonna no longer look at myself as less than. What if I to consider and start to look for evidence that I am enough? We want you to realize the things that show up in life that you think are the evidence that you're not enough, or not yet worthy, or not yet good enough. They are not the evidence that you're not enough. They are the manifestations of your belief that you're not enough. So if you were to start looking for all the ways that you are really fabulous, the demonstrations or the evidence that you are fabulous will open up and increase, because you make real and important what is real and important in your life by investing your energy in it. If you want to notice more of your own greatness, pay more attention to you and what you are doing well, and you might also consider casting a wide net over what ways you are being that might be worthy of your attention, appreciation, and celebration. What if, right now, you decide to take us at our word and discover your greats? Start to look at it. Where am I doing brilliantly? Where am I so natural, so effortless? Where do I feel so easy? When am I following my desire and letting myself flow? That's an even easier way to discover yourself. What if I allow myself to focus on embracing my desires, and know that in fulfilling my desires, I allow my greatness to shine? That's the easiest way to do it. That way, you don't have to think about it, or as you're inclined, overthink it. You don't have to name it. You don't have to have labels. You don't have to write down a mission statement. You can just know when I am feeling ease, and when I am in the flow, and when I am present and feeling good, I am clearly being who I truly am, and who I truly am is just brilliant. I can trust in that. What about that? If you embrace what calls to you and let that flow, and let yourself be in a state of expectancy about it, allowing it to come about, enjoying the pleasure that realizing what you want and what you prefer gives to you, when you believe you can have it, you will be great. You will be great. You will be great in ways that only you can be great, and you can make this happen more fully, and be more aware of it, once you refuse to continue investing in limiting thoughts about you. What if you gave up the need to limit or diminish how magnificent you are? What if you gave up the idea that if you're really successful, it somehow makes other people feel less? What if you gave up the idea that you have to earn it? What if you gave up the idea that having what you want requires hard work and suffering? What if you refuse to invest your thinking in those kind of thoughts? What if you started thinking, having what I want is easy and natural, and it's when I push too hard and struggle and suffer that I actually make it hard for what I want to come to me? What if you thought that? What if you gave up the idea that anything is too good for you? And we mean, for the you that you naturally, already, intrinsically easily are. What if you started to think, I'm worthy and deserving of everything I desire? What might that feel like if you made that thought solid in your awareness, made that thought feel like fact? Well then, life would shift, and fast. If you were to make real the knowing that you are worthy and deserving of everything you desire. If you made real with your attention the idea that everything you desire is your version of the best life has to offer, and realize you constantly getting clear about it, if you allowed yourself to relax into the knowing that, based on me and who I am, what I think the best things life has to offer will show up as my desires. If you were to allow yourself to practice feeling good about those things, and practice feeling good when you think those thoughts, and enjoying the pleasure of what you prefer, and believing that you can have what you prefer, and that you deserve it, and that it's flowing to you because it's a match for you, you would feel your emotions shift. You would feel pleased with you and pleased with life. You would feel a sense of life getting lighter. You would feel uplifted. You would feel elation, and of course, you can know in that feeling that you're reshaping life as you know it. Your feeling are always indicating the degree of alignment you are in with all you've become. Creation is constantly responding to that which you make real by investing your attention in it. What you invest your attention in shows up, no matter what it is. No matter if it's something you like or something you dislike, no matter if it's something that's a distortion or a limited view of who you are, or it's the real clear understanding. Whether you invest your attention in it now or later, whatever you invest your attention in, you're making more of in the world and in your experience of the world. So why not make more of? Think more about your intrinsic greatness, and the greatness of others. Why not start to think of everyone as divine and capable of learning how to do this? Why not be a demonstration of this by investing in the thoughts that empower you to flow and shine? What if you allowed yourself to think of your life as some you are facilitating? That you are here as a vehicle for all of creation to express here as you? What if you paid attention and cared so much about how you feel, knowing what your feelings mean, and caring so much about them that you really learned how to let all of creation express clearly through you? Without evaluating it, without thinking, I need to work harder or be better. Just focus on how you feel. Know that when you're feeling good, you're allowing it to flow. Don't you see how good this could be, how fulfilling it might become? And trust us when we say how great you really are and how great your experience of being you could be. You could live life in an exquisite state of fulfillment, pleased with you and enjoying all of it and everyone else. In this aligned state you become unconditional. When you focus on your flow and empower by letting yourself be who you are, you become unconditionally expansive, expressive, abundant, and free. And you vibe that to everyone you meet. Imagine that. You have the capacity to contribute so much more to this beautiful planet by being you. Being happy, allowing more, and thinking highly of you is how you let it happen. It's not hard work. It's not trying harder. It's not making yourself better. It's simple empowering your alignment, letting yourself flow. So what if you started right here, right now to honor yourself, knowing that great, natural and easy, that you are entirely deserving of that experience. And furthermore, in that viewpoint, thinking those things, practicing those thoughts until they feel normal and natural and real and easy and fun to you, feeling the deep sense of naturalness in your own greatness, in your own exceptional beauty, in your own uniqueness. When you're in that viewpoint, you are completely in sync with all you've become, and this, beloved ones, is also how we see you. We are complete.
And those channelings are public and you can hear them. So what I'm going to tell you now is not confidential. Because if you pass from innate to that which is happening to you corporally as a human being when you're born, you're also going to pass something else. You are in the womb of the mother, sharing the life's bloodstream for all of those months. And part of what you will have, therefore, in this increase is the increase in the mother's consciousness passed to you. Whether it's male or female, the compassion of the female mother will play a more important part because of this instinct than before. And you will be born with a different attitude. My partner, I'm not really sure you said that correctly. The template is going to work so you're more compassionate. Could it be clearer? And it's going to happen because instinct of that which is your mother is going to be part of you. And your mother's instinct is compassion. She's a female. And she's going to carry a different kind of consciousness for this planet. And the planet's going to change because of it. Clear? Innate is responsible. There are so many. You're going to be more in touch with Akash. This is the third innate in the series. And the fourth attribute of the day. Perhaps it's even the fifth. Depends how you count these. You're going to be more aware of the Akash. Right now, the Akashic record in your DNA is responsible for irritating you because it's not working well. All you remember from your Akashic record are things that are dramatic. A past life drowning, a death, carries over the veil when you're born for only one reason, because it is the same level of consciousness you are. Your nature responds to death and trauma. That's what you get from DNA.
Wow.
Now you're about to grow up.
That just gave me fucking chills, man.
And as this starts to grow, your Akash is going to pass the things that really made a difference.
Oh my god.
Some of the most beautiful experiences you've ever had, you'll dream about. Oh, you're going to wake up and wish you hadn't, because they were so good. And you'll start remembering them. They will shape what you do next. You'll remember celebration and joy and good things that took place with you.
Wow. I never even thought.
All this is a change in the way the Akash responds to the template. A compassionate template for an evolved human being.
Wow. That is the craziest.
I'll call this the last one.
Wow. I'm mind blown.
You're going to have a greater relationship with Source.
Thank you.
How can I tell you this?
Thank you.
Right now, as you sit in the chair listening to me, there's a relationship. And it's not really a believable one, is it? You report to a room, a man sits in a chair, his conscience leaves him, and in his body, there's a beautiful entity. As you feel it, I say it's a brother, sister, who comes and gives you instructions. That's your relationship. And for a few minutes, you might enjoy actually the feeling that I give you when I hold out my hand to you and say, let's just join hands for a minute. You can talk to Creator, all right? That's going to change. Your relationship with that which is your higher self, directly relating to that which is the creative source, is something created by the template and the new innate. You're going to know who you are. And when you're born, and as you start to grow, there'll be no question that you're part of creation. How you treat it may be a mystery. What you do with it is your free choice, always free choice. But there come a day when you don't wonder if there's a God. You're going to wonder what part of it you are. And there are those who are so impatient because you've been there and done that and you know I'm right. And you can hardly wait. That's the new template. Oh, there's more. But for now, it's enough. This is what I want to give you. To some, it's far-fetched. For some, you'll have no proof of it while you're on earth. For some. Free choice and discernment. And how you react to this message literally will shape what you do next. How much power over your own life and your own body do you really think you have? The more you believe you can change it, the higher your DNA will cooperate with you and will do the things you tell it to. Dear ones, that's how much power you have. I am crying, and I will not tell you things that are not so. I know it's a double negative. I will always tell you things that are so. But I want you to know there's no agenda except love. And that's a big one. For it then defines the compassion of God, which you are starting to assume. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Cryon of Magnetic Service.
Wow.
There used to be a time when my partner had to adjust in the first few moments of a channel. There was a time where he had to actually change his countenance. Try to relax. Let the pineal flow without what is called the filters of human consciousness, belief. And now I just jump in whenever I want. It's the way of it. That the practice of communicating with spirit pays off, and you get better at it. And so the human being is asked to practice. Now don't take this wrong. For in a linear fashion, that would mean, well, I'm going to have times for meditation and extend them.
No.
And that's not so. What if I told you it may just be the opposite? The meditations would be shorter but more intense. Meditation is beautiful. It is a time put aside for communication with that which is inside and outside. And yet it indeed is also changing. What if it were possible that every time you blink your eyes, you'd be meditating? That it would be so intrinsic
It is.
to the value of your cellular structure to be in this mode that your cells would just crave it. They would crave to be in meditation 24/7, but a walking meditation, a working meditation.
I get it.
So that as you get up out of your chair, there's no difference really in when you sit down to meditate.
I'm confused.
That kind of a relationship with your higher self would be doable for the human being. And this is what the masters have taught. It is doable. And not only is it doable, it is something that your cells want for you. You've got this missing bridge my partner has talked about between corporeal self and innate self. The intelligent part of your body literally craves to be in touch with the rest. To have human consciousness not only aware of it, but always working with it. There's part of your cellular structure that feels this is coming, dear ones. More than ever before, as energy shifts, the quantum parts of you are alert. They really have a feeling, if you want to say, that it is at hand. Also creates in a human being sometimes a little discomfort because you don't know what's next. Every single time you feel change coming, the human being wonders whether it's going to be good or not. And so I'm here to tell you, oh, so what you are feeling now, I want you to relax with. I want you to relax with it and let it in. And the expansion will be the result. The expansion of you with your higher self. Isn't it time? Isn't it time to meet the rest of you? Think about that. You're bigger than you think, and I'm going to continue this teaching from last night about the soul. I only have a couple more things to say about it. And you may have heard it before. My partner may have mentioned it before in his talks. But I want you to hear it from me. And so this would become part 2 of what we call soul journeying. Now, The soul isn't journeying anywhere. It's you who are journeying to meet it. You're cognizing what it is. You are journeying to meet yourself. And we have named it this way for a reason. It's not linear. You have to look at it backwards in order to understand the profundity of it. Before I begin, I would like to say, and I know where I am. It's precious here. I've told you it is a piece of Lemuria here. I've told you the Pleiadians are here. The very creative source. The beauty of a benevolent society that would be in ascension status and be your spiritual parents. That energy is here. There are only a few places on the earth. There's only really 24 of them who have been assigned the attributes of time capsules. They pair up eventually, and you'll understand the push-pull energy between them. One pushes what you don't have, and one removes the old stuff you don't need. That's how they work. By the way, that's also the attributes of the push-pull energy in the center of the galaxy you have mistakenly called a black hole. It's not a singularity. It cannot exist. We have said this before. Isn't it interesting that in physics everything comes in pairs, and then when you look at the middle of the galaxy, there's only one thing? Where is your common sense? There's got to be a pair there also. There always is in physics. There's a push-pull energy. We call the twins over there. And there's a reason for it in physics, and they will discover it's just unseen at the moment. There's a node in New Zealand. It's an important one. It's because this is a piece of Lemuria, and because it is a previous home or an existing one, depending upon how you look at time, to those which helped you create the divinity inside you. We've spoken of it before in this Mount Cook, and so I'm just going to take a moment to say thank you for the ones who took the time to respect it and to look at it. And it says thank you back. There's a lot to know about that. And as time unfolds and it gets paired up with its counterpart, I want you to look at the energies between them and realize why they are what they are. Enough said for that. I want to continue my journey of the human soul. It's not human. We call this the human soul because we're on earth, because we are with you, and because that's what you call it. But it isn't. The soul is the creator. We've told you this before, long before. This earth was even cool. The soul existed, and it would eventually be part of you. It's eternal in both directions. And so I want to take you on this journey. Where have you been? Before the Pleiadians did what they did on this planet, where were you? Did you have anything to do with what came before this planet? Or, as some of those who would be the experts in spiritual things would tell you, that everything started when you arrived? Really? I want to give you some information. It makes it so much bigger for you. There have been many worlds before yours that have gone through what you've gone through. We've given you some of the names of those in the past that you would even recognize. The Pleiadians are the most immediately removed from you. They are your spiritual parents. They did the work. And they watch over you like parents would watch a child that has totally, completely free choice without even knowledge of their parents. There is benevolence, there is love, there's caring. especially now. There's an awakening on this planet. You're past this precession of the equinoxes. You're in an energy that I foresaw and I told you about 23 years ago. And here we sit. There's celebration in certain parts of the galaxy because of this planet Earth. So don't look at your news today, okay? This is not what I'm talking about. We're not talking about current events. I'm talking about world events, not world as you would think of it in the news, but world that is the earth from its creation to now. And all the things that have taken place in the way they have, what you've done with it. You're sitting on the precipice of massive change. You have free will, you always have, you always will. But we've seen this before. And here's what I tell you. So have you. For some of you, this is the 12th or 13th time you've done this. You realize that? Your soul has been involved in other places, in other planets, in other constellations. Life is so old in this galaxy, dear ones, compared to yours. So old. Life could start as easily as a few million years when a planet is ripe and ready and begins properly and accelerates in the right way. Not that hard. You will find eventually, listen science, this is a prediction, you will find eventually that when you discover life in other places that are not related to this planet, it will have the same kind of DNA structures. These DNA structures are common to the galaxy. It is how life develops. Oh, there will be some variation, but you will see a commonality that will tell you that what you have on the planet is not unique. Hardly. When you look out at the stars and ask yourself, is there life? It's like standing on a beautiful beach on the planet and asking if anywhere else on the planet there's another beach. Just because you can't see it. The processes that would create a beach on your planet are the processes that would create your planet itself and other planets that would have life. You've been part of the process. Not the corporeal you, but the soul you, the part of the collective you. The part that you can touch right now if you want to. The most profound way through the pineal. And start a communication with your cellular structure that at first you won't even feel it, you won't even know it's there. But when you open a door and keep it open, very, very slowly the energy seeps in a very benevolent and sweet way so it doesn't surprise you or shock you or make you afraid. And you wake up one day and you realize you're not alone. You realize that there's help. You realize you're more peaceful. You realize you're more healthy. And then you start realizing it's working. That's how it works. Do you realize why that is? So we don't frighten. So we don't startle. Humans are slow to cognize things they have never seen before or never imagined before. So there is no fear. And so we go slow. There's nothing more beautiful than awakening human being. Finding that which is missing in their life is really there all along. Somebody needed to hear that. You have been part of the plan. You have been a soul of the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians, a planet before theirs, older, much older than theirs, in another constellation in this galaxy, and you were part of that. They're your grandparents. Their name is Arcturian. There are also the Sumerian. There are so many. There are so many ways that this happens. If you're working with these groups, dear ones, and you want to know who they are or where they came from, they're just going to smile at you. But they're here to help. The way grandparents help. Pleiadians are different. They've got responsibilities. The others don't. They're just here to play with you, to help you. There's so much help. There's an allowance we have of these who have helped plant the seeds in this galaxy to come here to this planet, which is the only planet of free choice, and walk among you and be part of you. They're guides, they're helps, they're whatever you want to call. They're advisors. And the only rules they have is you have to see them. They cannot announce themselves to you. Many have. There have been many who actually have sensed them and feared them. There's many who think that they're visitors that perhaps are going to capture soul or kill them just because they don't even understand. There is a wall, you call it a veil, between multidimensional things like that and who you are. And this wall, this veil, is beginning to lift. Now, I want to tell you, so you understand and know this, that the veil lifts because you pull it up. Brute force of consciousness and spiritual awakening will pull the veil up. It doesn't go up by itself. It doesn't get thinner by itself. It just sits there waiting for you to pull on it. That is the arrangement. You have got to do it. Let me put it in better terms and stop the metaphors. If you're going to awaken to who's around you, who is multidimensional, it's going to be on your terms, not ours. And that's always the way it has been. You've got to search if you're going to find it. God is not going to present a situation to you that's going to give you positive proof of who you are or what's on the other side of the veil. This is, if you want to call it, a puzzle for you to figure out. It has to be that way. And every single planet that has gone through this has figured it out in this fashion. And here's what I want to tell you, and here's how it applies to today's teaching. You were there. You were there. Does this carry over into your cause? A little, but not as much as your experience on Earth. And we're going to get there in a moment. I want to tell you, there's two things that I want to remind you of. And we've given them before, but we're talking about souls in general. So I want to tell you what they are. The first is this. Even though yesterday we told you you cannot put human attributes on God, and that it's a mistake to think that the creator of the universe has these human things, there's still one that you always seem to develop on your own. It's an old energy concept that's going to have to disappear before anything happens of significance to you. And that is the concept of judgment. Judgment is a human attribute, an old human attribute, an old energy human attribute that is separatist. Judgment comes from one human looking at another, or one civilization looking at another, and deciding that the other civilization is not behaving properly. Judgment is one human being looking at another and saying they're not doing it right. Judgment is everywhere. All over the planet, always has been. Judgment creates war. And so naturally, when you build your religious structures, judgment is God. And it isn't. And it isn't. And it never was. But it's ingrained into you. Am I doing it right? How often do we hear that? Dear Spirit, I don't want to offend any angelic entity anywhere here. Dear Spirit, I don't want to do the wrong thing. Dear Spirit, this or that. What are you afraid of? Judgment? You're still doing it. And that is why I'm talking like this. You're still doing it. You're walking around feeling small. Why is that? Why do you humble yourself before God? Now I just got in trouble, didn't I?
Uh-oh.
That's expected, is it not? Be humble before God. If you are a piece of God, why are you humbling yourself before yourself? Does this make sense? Spiritual common sense. If you're a piece of creation, you don't have to bow to yourself. What if instead we said it's time to stand up from the humbling position and take the power that's yours in benevolence, in courtesy, in generosity, in integrity, not humbleness? What good is it going to do to grovel before God? And how is that helping the planet? Groveling before God. The reason I'm in trouble with this message is because that's what you've been given since day one. God is great, you're not, therefore you should bow a little. But if you apply the teachings of yesterday and today, and you start to realize that you are a piece of this majesty that is God itself, that is in every single piece of trillions of DNA molecules in you, and that they all have a consciousness of wanting you to discover what that is, you think they want to be worshipped? The answer is no. I want you to start thinking differently about God, about the soul that you have inside. You deserve to awaken to your magnificence. How about that statement? And the magnificence does not show itself in egotism. You don't stand and beat your chest and tell everybody how good you are. No master has ever done that. You awaken to the wisdom and the maturity of mastery. What is one of the chief attributes of mastery? Silence. You knew that. Be still and know you are God. It's silence. There's an internal point where you can breathe the air of the planet, and you can remember, and you can say, you know, the air of the other planet, it was pretty much like this one. You're wise beyond words because you've been there and done that, and perhaps you don't know the details. But just sit there for a moment and be quiet. Can't you feel who you are? Is this too far removed? Is this too far removed from your intellectual pursuit? Is this too far removed from your 3D logic to think that there was more to life than what you've been told? There is no judgment. Stop humanizing God and creating attributes of situations that are human applied to God. How many times have we heard there are trapped souls someplace? They may be trapped between one place and another, and then humans will decide what those places are. They'll create levels, perhaps. The soul is trapped between 3 and 5. It's all human made, you know this. How can the creator of the universe be trapped? There is no individual soul energy. It's all part of the whole. It is a collective that is part of you. And when you aspire corporally and move on to the next level, the soul is collected from your body and becomes part of the whole again. Now, when you sense somebody who's departed, That is singular, and it's hard to describe to you. It's actual, it's real. We've even told you that pieces and parts of your loved ones who have passed over, the ones especially just recently, become part of you for your life. That's soul sharing, dear ones. It's important to understand how this works. So how can you have part of God trapped between some human created levels? And the answer is, it's impossible. Can I call it what it is? It's mythology at its best. So the next time somebody looks at whatever it is they're looking at and said that's a result of a soul being trapped inside yourself, I want you to know better. It's not necessary for you to speak up and say, well, now that's not exactly right. That's not what the masters do either. No, I want you to know better. And the reasoning for this is so you don't see a system that doesn't exist. I want you to see the system that exists. And that one is beautiful. There's no issues. There's no problems. There's no trappings. There's no purgatories. There's no soul that goes someplace in preparation for something else. We told you that yesterday. There's no levels of souldom. God is God, the creator of this universe. Is what it is. It's not segmented. It's not trapped. It does not have a consciousness like humans do. It's beyond that. Way beyond that. It's something I can't even describe. For you, all you have to know is that it loves you beyond measure, and everything that is there for you is benevolent. You don't have to jump hurdles, dear one. You don't prove yourself one way or the other. You just have to agree to learn more about what is there inside you. And the rest will be something that will be self-evident. And we say it again, when you go to your knees, if you wish to do it, if you want to honor God in any way you want to, when you pray, when you meditate, we're there. And there's only really one question, if you want to ask a question, that you should have. And the question is, dear God, tell me what I need to know. There's only one. And the reasoning is this, is that all of the other things that you could possibly ask are subservient to that one. Tell me what it is I need to know, dear Spirit, in order to solve the problem, to get from A to B. There's somebody here who needs to hear that. Here's what you know who you are. I want you to go to a place and ask Spirit this. Tell me what it is I need to know to get out of pain, all right? You didn't come to suffer, dear ones. It's time to get through that. Someone needed to hear that. Shouldn't have to live that way. That was not the plan. Whatever has happened, water under the bridge to that place can be undone. You have control over your own cellular structure. And it wants to hear from you. I want to bring up the final one. This one is difficult. We always save the best to last. The ones that are hard to understand, concepts that are perhaps things that you haven't really pondered much, and I'll give it to you. And this has to do with what we would call soul inheritance. When you look at inheritance as you perceive it, it's mostly in 3 dimensions, and it is what we would call chemical. And the confusing part is that you, as a human being, especially one who is aware of your spiritual complement, are dealing with an oxymoron. You are dealing with 2 kinds of inheritance that happen within one single body. Now, the chemical inheritance is that which you're taught in school, and it carries over with it a lot of what your parents had and your grandparents had. You look like them, Perhaps you will have dispositions in cellular structure. Your DNA carries through. There are things that you pass. There are talents, there are instincts that your parents would have, and you can see it. Some of you can even look at your hands and recognize your parents' hands were there. That's chemical inheritance. It's powerful. The man who sits in the chair in front of you right now has a chemical inheritance. His chemistry is Irish. And if he tracks back his lineage, he will find that it's not too many generations before he finds himself in Ireland. And he can track his name, which is very Irish, right back to a family who is there. And he's done it. Someday he may even visit. That is his chemical inheritance. Now, you don't know the story, and now is not the time to give it, but we have exposed to him his immediate past life. And it was not Irish. It was just a ditch in Australia. And that is who he is. Now, here is the issue. Who is he? Is he Irish or is he Australian? He has one path which is Akashic and one path which is chemical. And so he is a combination, a unique human being who has an entirely different past. When you look at the Akashic family compared to the Irish one, which is chemical, and they are both accurate. Is that confusing enough or what? It doesn't have to be. When you look at the parable of Emily and Evelyn and all the other trees we didn't even name, Jason's one of them. I'm giving you names that mean things to those of you who are here. Who stand in the forest, who are all together because they have the same roots. Remember yesterday? So what I want to show you and tell you is that you have to start looking at yourselves differently about who you are based upon both kinds of inheritance. The chemistry you have, you track back and you think, well, my past life was then perhaps my partner will have to be Irish. No, it doesn't. You just have the attributes of chemistry. The real past life, the one you look at, is Akashic. And what is confusing about this is how there can be two paths that are so different that then create a unique human being like you. And you want to separate them and you want to say which one is accurate, and I'll tell you, they both are. Take my partner. He assumes, and now he knows, that he is part of his parents and his grandparents and their parents, that he has the chemistry of all of them. But he also knows that the part of him that is God that he knows is involved in his Akashic remembrance, and those are the lives he lived with other chemistry from other parents and other grandparents. The result is, dear one, don't overanalyze it. I want you to look at yourself. That's all I want you to look at. How has this come together to create who you are? How has this come together to create who you are? You are a unique human being. Absolutely unique. This is part of the uniqueness. Chemically, you have attributes of 3D inheritance. Spiritually, you have attributes of Akashic inheritance. They come together to create you. Where it goes from here will create another you. The corporeal complications and the puzzle are beyond anything you can imagine. I have just entangled the puzzle that some will listen to. And they'll start to realize the puzzle has always been there. It's going to unravel some things that you didn't understand. How your lives, when read by an Akashic reader, can take you on a whole different path than what you know your parents did. And now you have the answer. Don't try to figure it out. I want you only to see the beauty of how it is created You. Is that good enough? That's all you have to look at. Unique in every single way. You've got the best of everything. Perhaps you've got the strength of the chemistry that you needed and the Akashic lives that you needed to build a whole soul who can make a difference planet today. Did you think of that? Everything that you've gone through had a purpose. But you're done going to school. And you're done surviving. Now it's time to come out of the cave. See who you are. Check out the magnificence around you. Get out of the crouching position. Stand tall. Feel the light of God around you. And claim your mastery. Simple? No. No. But you always start with small steps. And then your bigger ones. So now it's time to start. That's the message of the day. It'll get more complicated. I promise. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm crying at magnetic service. And so the energy builds. It is not seeable. The three-dimension reality that you live with doesn't let you see who you are. It's one of the reasons that Spirit looks upon you and wants to wash your feet. If I use the word sacrifice, it's not correct. It sounds like suffering and you're not here for that. If I use the word courage, it's more appropriate. And an entity that is God and part of the creative source would take themselves and rip away the very knowledge of who they are. Some would say dumbing themselves down so they had no idea that they were even part of God. To walk the planet in corporeal form on purpose, with permission. And that's who you are. And then we come yet again, asking you to remember. To remember. To remember. Old souls are awakening. What is it you wake up to? You wake up to perhaps a feeling, an intuition that there is purpose here. And then the three-dimension part of your logic will take you to the next part of that, and you'll say, and now what is it I am to do? And before you, there is a list. One that is linear. Shall I write a book? Shall I channel? Shall I travel? Shall I heal? And so many times we've said, dear human being, none of those things are what Spirit wants for you. Not really. Well, you might do them. But Spirit wants you to remember. In the remembrance comes light. In the light comes a change in the planet because you are there. Again and again, we return to that which is the metaphor of light and dark and how you change a darkened room with just one match. That's what you're here for. And if you spend your life thinking you are less than, or wondering why you were born, or feeling somehow it should be better, you create your own demise. Or you'll go back to that place where you came, which you call death. and wake up on the side of the veil with me, and you'll hardly wait to get back, saying, maybe I'll give it another shot, maybe I'll wake up this time, maybe I can do something for the planet. Well, we're saying, why don't you listen now? Well, there are things you can do now. And we've said it before, and we've said it before, and we've said it before. You leave this place and you walk into dark areas and you know where they are, whether they're at home, whether they're family, whether they're at work, whether they're with friends, and all you have to do is hold the light. You become compassionate. Have you ever tried to argue with a person who's compassionate? Have you ever been angry and gone into a confrontation and you expected anger back and what you got was surrender?
Yeah, they freak out.
Where a human says to you,
I'm sorry.
I'm not angry. And you are. And a human says to you instead, I surrender to you.
Not quite.
I'm vulnerable in front of you. Because I feel the love of God in me. Let us not be angry again. And what do? It just dissolves you, does it not? And all that anger and energy, it just goes away. And you just met a light worker who was able to change you because they were different. You see how this works. Now that's work. And that's what you came for. To change your countenance. To be more compassionate. To hold light. There are so many questions asked. The hows, the whys, the reasons. And they've been asked for all of these years, and we attempt to answer them the best way we can. And here is another channeling, yet another channeling, where we endeavor to explain the unexplainable. Unexplainable to those who stay in the box of 3D. Many times the answers are not what you want to hear. We'll cry, how do I do this? And we say, you just do. That's not good enough. It's not an answer that you can work with.